What the Washington? A historical, social, and political tour of the weirdest state of the nation. My name's Mikayla.
My name is Matt.
And today we're going to be talking about The Ring, 2002. I don't know if anyone's not familiar with The Ring. This is a movie that came out on October 18th, 2002.
Right on.
By Gore Verbinski.
The creator of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Hell yeah.
And these
great movies.
These are great movies. He was really killing it.
What other movies has he directed? He's also directed Ringo, A Cure for Wellness. Did you ever watch that one?
Yeah.
I watched that. Nobody talks about that. I wonder if it holds up. Yeah. Underrated. The Lone Ranger. He loves working with Johnny. Do you want to guess what movie he came out with? Just 5 short years. So 1997 he releases this movie that I want you to guess. 2001 he releases The Mexican. 2002
The Mexican with Antonio Banderas?
With Brad Pitt, it looks like.
Oh, the Brad Pitt movie. Okay.
Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts.
Oh, well, there's no Mexicans in that movie.
No. And then in
Antonio Banderas is not Mexican either, but whatever.
In 2002, he releases The Ring. So what do you think that 97 movie is? Are you familiar with Gore Verbinski's work beyond the apparently hundreds of Johnny Depp movies that he's done?
No.
Also, I think he did more than just the first Pirates. He also did 2 and 3.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well, that makes sense though, because they do have a cross thread production value and directorial value. But
he hasn't directed anything since A Cure for Wellness.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
I know, 2016. Anyway, do you want to guess what this movie is?
What movie was it?
Mouse Hunt.
Mouse Hunt with Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
Wow.
That you know that kid's movie?
Ah, that movie is a strange movie.
Yeah.
Now that I'm older, I realize there's several scenes in it, or I don't know how they got that to a child's audience, but okay.
Anyway, so this is by him. He's the director. It stars Naomi Watts as Rachel, who's the main character. We also have Martin Henderson as Noah Clay.
Yeah, I didn't even know who that was. That wasn't even a character actor I remembered.
I feel like I know his face, but I couldn't tell you anything he was in.
Right.
And then we have David Dorfman, who plays Aiden Keller, Rachel's son.
Yep.
I don't really know if there's any other big names
besides there is.
Naomi Watts.
Yes, there is.
Oh, yeah. We do have other people. That's right.
We have some horror alums in this movie that kind of are underrated performances.
We do have DeVay Chase, who's Samara. I don't know if she's really known. But we have Adam Brody as male teen number 1. You remember that?
From Jessica's Body. He's the bad guy. Yeah,
and then the one you were referring to is Polly Peretti is in this movie.
No, we have another one too.
Very briefly. Oh. Who are we talking about?
Brian Cox.
I was going to say,
plays
Brian
Hannibal
Cox.
Lecter in Manhunt and is also the main antagonist and protagonist from Succession. And he acts his ass off in this movie for the scenes that he's in.
He's the dad.
Yeah.
I was looking at the name, trying to... Richard Morgan, Samara's father.
His performance, the one he turns in, kind of like freaks me out to this day just because of the implications and what happens to him.
Yeah, so we're talking about The Ring today because it is not only set in Washington and not just Seattle. It is a large part of it takes place in Seattle, but a larger, I don't know about like time-wise, but a more significant part of it takes place on like a fictional version of San Juan Island.
Yeah, it's like...
Or Orcas Island.
I would say like a third of this movie takes place on the islands.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple scenes of like referencing the islands, and then she goes to the island in it.
Yeah. And not only is it set here, it was also filmed here.
Yeah.
Which is not something you see much anymore. So I did look this up. Now, Vancouver is a huge filming city because the Canadian government offers tax exemptions for if you're filming for the film industry. I looked it up. Those tax exemptions did go into place, I think, in 97. Mm-hmm. So they were in place by the time this movie filmed. Right. A little bit early on in their, exemption, tax program. So maybe the studios didn't have as much, set up there to, right. Really accommodate mass films right. like they do now. Anyway, all of this to say, once you get out of the early 2000s and you're in a movie that's set in Seattle, it's really hard to find a movie that's actually filmed in Seattle. Most of it's in Vancouver or surrounding areas of BC.
This movie is a relic because it feels like it was made partially here. You could tell that they did photography and videography and recorded with mm-hmm. actors in Washington. You don't get that much anymore. And, I'm not going to talk about the scabbing Canadians who are destroying the domestic film market with their tax incentives, along with Georgia and New York. We're looking at you. But it is very rare to see something that was so Washington coded. Mm-hmm. Even the direction and the visual effects of the film feel Washington. And when I think of a movie that best sums up Washington, especially Northwestern Washington, The Ring is one of them, which is kind of a dark thing to say, but it very much feels like it.
To me, this is one of the most Washington feeling movies. Right. It really captures not just the Pacific Northwest, but Washington.
Seattle, mm-hmm. especially upper middle class Seattle, and those first scenes when she's hanging out with her sister, and her niece's funeral, but also just the driving, when you drive somewhere in Washington, it's gonna be a whole day thing, because it's once you leave Seattle, at least in the 2000s, when you leave Seattle, it's just I gotta go to San Juan Island, and it's a ferry, you gotta drive over bridges, it's a whole journey. And if you saw that movie and you lived on the East Coast and you've never been to Washington, you for sure would have been it can't be like that over there. And it's it is.
Yeah, so there are some things that are filmed in Oregon, a few things filmed in LA. I don't think anything was filmed in BC as far as I'm aware. It could be maybe some minor shots where, mm-hmm. But a majority takes place in Washington and is filmed in Washington.
A lot of good scenes. In Oregon, a lot of important scenes take place here and are recognizable from my childhood, places I passed by all the time.
So we're going to go through the film, the plot, and then we're going to point out things that are particularly Pacific Northwest and accurate, and maybe some things that are a little inaccurate if we find them or we want to talk about them.
I might make some call outs to the Japanese film too, because I do remember parts of the Japanese film that this is based off of Ringu.
Right, yeah, this is a remake of a Japanese film called Ringu.
Which the changes they make match the audience and setting way more.
And this is something that we want to do not on a regular basis, but on a reoccurring basis, where we talk about films that are set in Seattle, probably starting with horror films, because those are where a lot of Washington set films. That was loud. Where a lot of Washington set films, that's the genre most take place in, with the exception of Twilight. So one's off the top of my head, Malignant. Matt's already annoyed. By James Wan. I love that film. And
you can't do this to me.
I don't think it's set super in it's set in Seattle. I don't think it's filmed a lot in Seattle, but there is this one iconic scene that I make fun of all the time.
Yeah.
That is definitely filmed in Seattle. And then the Goosebumps show on Disney Plus is also a good one to talk about. And that one's fully filmed in BC, but it is very accurate to island counties.
For sure. San Juan and Island County.
Yeah, small island.
There's a couple other horror films I want to talk about too.
The Changeling. We
watched that earlier.
Iconic.
It's so good.
Seattle imagery in that one.
And because it's it's an older film. It's like the 80s, the early 80s. It very much has all the iconic Seattle imagery, even though the house seems a little bit out of place, I will say. But also, there's, of course, Twin Peaks, which is a TV show. David Lynch. We just lost David Lynch, but it takes place in Washington. And it kind of reminds me a lot of Washington. Like, there's like some really weird stuff out here. And then another movie called The Vanishing with Jeff Bridges and Kiefer Sutherland that takes place in Western Washington, where it's like a guy who kidnaps a woman at a gas station. And then Kiefer Sutherland has to like find his wife, which it's kind of like 24, but domestic and not as weird.
Yeah, so we want to do a few of these, but we'll start off with The Ring. We're just gonna go through the movie, so like if you really don't want to be spoiled for The Ring, I don't know how you've come 23 years without being spoiled in some way for The Ring.
This is kind of a staple now. This is I'm pretty sure I saw this right around the same time it came out, and I was pretty young when I saw it. So
I will say, like, maybe you don't know what the ending of The Ring is.
That's true. Yeah.
Because, like, and you know the premise, I'm sure, you know.
Have you ever seen Scary Movie 2? Or 3? Scary Movie 3?
No, I haven't.
That's literally, like, they copy that.
So, anyway.
Also, talking about other media, also we can talk about other things that are filmed in Washington and how much they are, like, representative of Washington. So not just horror films, but horror films we're passionate about horror films in this community.
Yeah, so I guess if you have them, send them our way.
Yeah.
In other media. Anyway, let's just go ahead and get started, because we're just going to go through the plot. Like I said, if you want to avoid spoilers, turn this off like 3/4 of the way through. I don't know what.
I'll put the time tag on.
Yeah.
To the listener to hop back in.
Hi, producer's note here from Matt. If you want to skip to non-spoilers, go to 1 hour and 46 minutes. All right, see you there. Bye.
I don't think a spoiler is going to ruin the movie. This is widely regarded, or it used to be, not currently, but like was regarded growing up as like the scariest movie people could buy or watch. Anyway, I didn't watch it as a child, so I watched it as a youngish adult. The first thing that we open up on is an ivy-covered house in its colonial style. I personally think it does not look like a Washington house at all. Also, the first thing you'll notice is that we have the iconic blue filter, which I think works in this film. But this is such a staple for, like, Northwest. It's so interesting because I don't know if Twilight intentionally cribbed this off The Ring, but Twilight also has the blue filter.
When we first saw the filter, because that scene you're talking about is filmed in LA, so I totally get why they would use a blue filter to make it colder, because it's warm naturally in LA, but it is funny. The first thing I thought when I saw the blue filter was Twilight, because that's more of the style in my head.
Yeah.
Of who did it. I forgot how much of that filter is in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's throughout the whole movie. It's
the whole thing. And it's like more intense than you think it is.
But it works better, in my opinion.
You get used to it when you're watching. Like, you don't notice I think you notice it's kind of blue the whole time, but like it's not distractingly blue.
Right. And it makes the other colors that they emphasize in the film pop. So like reds are more red with the blue filter.
It's high contrast.
Right.
Blue filter is the thing. It's also high contrast. Right. Yeah. I took a picture of the screen at one point, and like how blue it was a little jarring once you see it through like a separate image. Anyway, we're opening up on like these rich people, maybe in the Bellevue area.
Suburbs for sure.
Yeah, and there's two teens having a sleepover. and they're wearing Catholic school uniforms, so maybe they go to Holy Names Academy.
The call out.
Who can say?
When we were watching the movie, Mikayla immediately called out.
Like, what private Catholic school are they going to? Like, the only one I know of is Holy Names in Seattle, which is probably where they're going if they're going to private Catholic school. Yeah,
that's true.
So anyway, they are explaining the lore of this tape. One of the friends, I can't remember the friend's name. The one who dies is Katie.
Yeah.
Spoiler, sorry. They explaining the tape, and it's like this urban legend that there's a tape you watch, and then a phone will ring after you finish it, and then they'll tell you 7 days.
Yeah.
7 days. Into your little ear.
An iconic line, by the way. That is such. I mean, for like the early 2000s when everyone had a house phone still.
Right.
Terrifying.
Oh, yeah. So
terrifying.
This is the thing about The Ring, is like why it loses some of its scariness, I think, as technology has progressed. Because when you think about like the experience of watching The Ring in the early 2000s, it was you go to Blockbuster, you get a VHS, you put the VHS in your tape, it opens with the imagery of the tape, I'm pretty sure. And then like you have just watched at the end, you have just watched the tape, and so like you are the next one in theory
who's going to
which like works so well. And
it's so
and
good.
Like you said, with everybody has a house phone,
it was the anxiety of watching people pick up their house phone, and it's like this ominous warning, and it's, you know, like it took me back, like it just yanked me out of when I was even when I was a teenager, we still had a house phone, but like just remembering the like panic of like running to get the house phone to catch the call before it ended when the person's calling, but then imagine it's like the death call. Also those the VHS situation just completely, it just kills her whole game, like
oh well,
the whole tape
like,
game.
Am I really loud? So canonically there is a movie called Rings, which like turns it more into like an internet thing, so actually no,
YouTube probably got her thing. I will say whom's amongst us is old enough to have popped in one of your parents' like VHS recorded tapes of like a TV show they wanted to watch, and then watched it not realizing that someone put the wrong casing on it. Like that anxiety definitely rings true in the like, oh, you know, you have these tapes just laying around your house, they're not even labeled. In this case it's not labeled at all. Her tape isn't, and those everyone's just looking at it. It just kind of plays to that like, oh, I'm just, you know, getting a movie and just popping it in.
The only recorded tape that I remember of my mom's from like a TV show that she recorded was, what's the name of like the Angels on Earth show?
Seventh Heaven?
No.
There's more than one.
It's not Seventh Heaven. It's like In the Arms of the Angels, but it's not that.
What's the name of Angels in the Outfield? I remember my parents recorded the X-Files. They recorded episodes.
Touched by an Angel.
Touched by an Angel. I do know that show, actually.
No, I wasn't finished with my story because my mom had specifically the episode of Touched by an Angel where there's like a Chinese woman who escaped the communist regime and is being hunted in America. Yeah, and and at the end she gets kicked down a flight of stairs, and then the angels protect her from getting kicked down a flight of stairs.
The Chinese kick her down a flight of stairs.
And so the angels protect her from that one, but the angel's too beat up, and so she ends up dying at the end of the
How's
episode.
An angel too beat up?
I don't know how it works, honey. I was like 9 years old.
I do remember that show.
Katie and her friend are talking about this, and then Katie asks, who told you about the tape? And she asked this because she watched it.
Yeah.
At a place in the mountains. They tried recording a football game, and then the tape that they used, they played it back, and it ended up being the bad tape. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, and if it's the early 2000s, it's a Seahawks game that is awful. Like, they're not even going to watch good football.
And I wonder if the football game was supposed to be the Apple Cup.
Oh, yeah, because they said college football, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's...
It's probably the Apple Cup.
I don't know. I just...
Are we going Wazoo, or are we going UW?
And then the phone rings, Katie freaks out, and her friend is like, oh my god, there was a tape, because Katie, like, pretended to be affected by this, like, pulled a prank on her friend. And then she freaks out when the phone rings. It turns out it's just her mom calling to check on her.
That was a good one.
But then when she's talking to her mom, the TV turns on and it's full static, and she thinks it's again her friend getting her back for the prank she pulled earlier. Where she pretended to die or suffocate or something like that. And then she goes up to it and turns it off. When she turns it off, it comes back on with the static. She eventually unplugs the TV. This kitchen scene, so Katie's going between like the kitchen scene in the living room, and it's like building suspense, and you're like not sure what exactly is going to happen. I said this felt very Scream to me.
It was
100%. Very inspired by Scream, which came out 2-3 years before, in 99, 98. 96. Oh my god, we looked this up. Yeah,
96. Yeah. Which it felt screamy, but it was like, it's like, actually this is a scary movie.
I mean, Scream is a scary movie too. It is.
Sure.
The home invasion in Scream is very effective.
Yeah. But like, this was like, it's supernatural as opposed to a guy.
Yeah. So anyway, just like a lot of Scream imagery in that little scene. She goes back to her friend's room, but on the way she finds a door with water underneath it. And water's also dripping from the knob. And then she sees, her friend's name is Becca.
Becca, yes. How did we forget?
So then she catches sight of the TV in Becca's room, and she screams.
Bruh.
Her face contorts.
Ugh.
Her skin goes blue, and she dies.
Ugh.
She's dead.
It was. Ooh.
I mean, yeah, I think she like technically dies later in a closet, because you'll see her as like a
when they flash
little jump scare of her face.
That was effective. That's an effective jump scare.
So, and that's the cold open of the movie.
Right, and it was a cold open. I forgot. Yeah, it's not even like, it's literally like the first scene of the film is not separate, but like you kind of don't know how it's going to be related to the rest of the film going into it.
It's a little framing. So we find out that our main character, we opened up on her now. Her name is Rachel. We see her picking up her child from school. And at first you don't really know how they're connected. So she seems very job focused, kind of a absentee mom.
She gives me workaholic vibes.
Yeah, she works as a reporter for the Seattle PI, which...
Rest in peace. Oh, not rest in peace. It's still around.
Oh
yeah.
my god. Yeah. Don't put that on the PI.
I was going to say, it is not a physical paper anymore. It's a online only paper. Which, it does damn good reporting, but it's not... It used to be a physical paper, and I used to actually get that paper when I was in high school, so...
Yeah. Her kid is very independent, as they call it, which basically means he takes care of himself, because, again, Rachel is kind of a bad mom.
She's really...
kind of explicitly a bad mom.
The teacher is very, like, hey, you need to, like... do this before I call CPS on you, Loki.
So this is the teacher talks to Rachel, and she says, you know, we're kind of worried about your son. She, like, shames her a little bit, rightfully so, for being, like, a bad mom and not paying attention to her kid very much or taking care of him very much. And then here's where we find out the dead girl, Katie, is his cousin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been 3 days. And this is a creepy kid, certified creepy kid.
So creepy.
So he has been drawing photos of death and, like, you know, creepy, horrific drawings at school that you would see from troubled kids.
Right.
And that's really why the teacher called Rachel in to talk about it, because she said she's concerned about it. And Rachel kind of dismisses this, saying that his cousin just died 3 days ago. So, of course, he's just processing through it. And the teacher says, you said his cousin just died 3 days ago. He's been drawing these for the past week. And these photos include, or one photo that in particular that she shows includes Katie dead. So,
or yes, a woman underground.
So this is, like, never really said in any official capacity, but this kid is psychic.
Yes, and in the Japanese version, the husband or the ex-husband is a psychic.
Mm.
So they kind of transmuted the abilities of the main character's ex-husband onto this kid, which I think works better.
Yeah, I think the creepy kid thing works.
The creepy kid, he's so creepy. He's so off-putting.
He sucks.
The actor, great job.
Yeah.
But, like, that kid is so off-putting. And, like, I don't want to be in the same room with him because he's drawing, like, Jeremy pictures. Like, I was literally humming Jeremy when she was showing all of his drawings. I was like, this is the kid that you need to, like, be nice to in school.
Yeah. So, like, she never questions this at any point in the movie, which is kind of annoying because long before he ever has any contact with Samara or the cursed tape, he is seeing images of Samara. I want to know why. It's never
the
answered.
Telepathy. So she's, what we find out later, it is relevant to the plot. We find out later that she is psychic.
No, I know Samara is. Yeah. I'm just saying that it's never explained. Is too. Yeah, but it's never explained how they made first connection.
I just think she transmits.
Like, you think that his proximity to Katie is enough?
Yeah, I 100% think that's what they're going for. They don't explain it, though.
Yeah.
But Cody, that's the kid's name, right? Aiden. Sorry, Cody's the name of the kid in Scary Movie 3. It's the same kid, literally, like, it's so freaky. But Aiden, several times throughout the film, knows things about Samara without knowing Samara. And then as we watched the movie with, the film with Rachel, we learned the thing that Aiden already knows. And he told her basically through art.
Yeah. So anyway, after we finish this scene, we get a rainy car ride through Seattle. And then we come back to their apartment where you kind of learn that she is a single mom. This again where you see that she's a journalist working for the PI. She has to make good money doing this because she can afford an apartment in downtown Seattle on a single income, which granted this is early 2000s.
But see what a recession will do to an entire generation of people.
Yeah, like listen, like Seattle in the 2000s was a cheaper city than Seattle now.
For sure.
But like still, she had to make good money.
She's
being a journalist by herself.
Yeah. And her apartment's nice. It's not like a small...
No, she has like 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's right next to the monorail.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's one of those things where...
We also see that she is a Kirkland University alum, which is so funny. That they couldn't... I told Matt, I was like, I assume they just didn't want to pay licensing rights to UW.
Right.
For this, because it's like... They have the Seattle PI, so why are they cheaping out on the Kirkland University shirt? But it's because, I'm sure it's because they didn't want to pay licensing.
Also, when you're seeing it, you think, wow, Costco has its own university.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this a Costco reference? Because it feels like it.
It is funny because her university, insignia is UW coded without being UW coded. I was just like, I was doing Leonardo DiCaprio snapping his fingers pointing at the TV.
Yeah. We had to pause this. And it's mentioned more than once in the movie.
It's like 4 or 5 times.
I think it's...
No.
It's at least twice.
Because she wears the shirts, but, like, she talks about, like, going to school.
Yeah. I think mentions once about
with her ex
actually going to Kirkland University or something like that. Yeah.
Kirkland U. The Kirkland University.
Here I said that they kind of have the correct rain type and dinginess of Seattle. This isn't like ultra mod Seattle, which felt very realistic. I'm sure they took... This is an actual apartment building in Seattle that they filmed this in. So that was easy. I will say later on in the movie, the rain becomes less realistic. Seattle.
Yeah.
It's a little too heavy.
When it's in Seattle, it doesn't make sense. At the end, it starts getting really heavy.
Yeah, there's some, I'm thinking particularly, when she's getting on the ferry.
I've had some moments where that's not
I guess it's just that every time it's raining, it's a little bit too much rain.
That might be a thematic choice, though. Honestly, I could see where they made that
not intentional. I just don't think it's very realistic for how most rain in Seattle or Washington in general.
At the beginning, the first third of the movie, the rain spot on.
Yeah, here's where you can tell definitely shot in Seattle. These scenes, this is what my note says. These are all rich people, LOL, even for 2002 Seattle. That's what I wrote down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you go, so.
Somebody's husband's a Boeing engineer.
We are transitioning, so she's going to her sister's house for the funeral of Katie.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, where I wrote that, because you see her sister, obviously they're going to private school, they're very rich. Wonder what they're doing for career. But also Rachel is well off enough.
Yeah.
I said all the flowers that are in this room for the funeral are lilies, and I hope they don't have cats.
That's the first thing you thought.
That's what I said. Yeah. We're at the funeral reception at their house. And this is when Rachel is speaking to her sister, and she finds out that no doctors know exactly what happened to Katie. They had 5 doctors. No one could figure it out. And then Rachel's sister asks her to try and figure out what happened to Katie, because Rachel is a investigative reporter.
Right.
So,
and clearly a good one.
And this is also where we get the jump scare of Katie's face, which is super contorted. Her jaw is broken open. Her eyes wide open. It's like the you died of fright face, I think.
Shock and fright.
Yeah. She ends up talking to some people, she being Rachel, at this party. She goes outside and sees a bunch of teenagers smoking, which
she
I said
smokes. The
Rachel
main character smokes.
Yeah. I know, but I said teenagers smoking is very 2000 Seattle.
Teenagers smoking, and then the cool aunt being like, "Hey guys, can I borrow borrow a light?"
Yeah.
And her being cooler than they are.
So she talks to these teenagers, figures out what's going on. This is the part where she finds out about the tape.
Yeah.
And then it's mentioned by one of Katie's friends.
Yep. Because she thinks that one of the boys could have been responsible, Katie's boyfriend, which they didn't know she had a boyfriend because she was in Catholic school.
Yeah. This is the Adam Brody guy.
Right, Adam Brody. And then the guy that they reference goes to...
It's Revere High School.
Paul Revere High School, which is a clear call out to Nathan Hale High School.
Yeah.
And I was just like...
Yeah.
They really were like, we don't want to use any of the names, but we want to reference nearby locations. Because I was like, that's just Nathan Hale.
Yeah. They also, this is where Rachel learns about Katie's boyfriend, and that Katie's boyfriend isn't there because he died the same night as Katie.
And she initially investigates, or thinks she's going to investigate him too, because because Revere, if it is Nathan Hale, my first instinct is, in this time period, Nathan Hale was not a good high school. So it's kind of implied that he's like not a Catholic school goody-goody guy.
Yeah, they go to different high schools.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The public school and private school divide.
They're like, ooh.
Also, the official ruling on his death is suicide because he fell off the top of a tall story, high-rise
building.
High-rise building.
Adam Brody spills. Like, he just gives her everything immediately.
So then Rachel decides to look in Katie's room. Here she finds Katie's yearbook, and all the faces of people are scribbled off. Oh no, it's like first she finds magazines. I don't know if she finds a yearbook, but she finds magazines and all the people's faces are like scribbled out. And then we go to the next day, photo processing. Next day, premiere photo processing, because Rachel finds a roll of film in Katie's room and wants to get it developed. So she goes next day, photo processing. And here's where you see the monorail.
We get a beautiful shot of the monorail. Beautiful. Also, another thing this movie does, it tells you what day it is. That's another thing. That's a thing.
Well, that's important because you have 7 days after you watch the tape.
Yep.
So, yeah. Timeline's important in this movie.
Yeah, timeline is very important.
So she processes those photos from the trip, but all the photos feature faces that are blurry, like they didn't develop correctly.
Right.
So then we see her wanting to go to this little mountain resort that Katie stayed at and her group of friends stayed at. So first we see Campbell Lake.
We see a ride that I have taken probably hundreds of times at this point.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar, if you're driving over Deception Pass, you will pass Campbell Lake in order to get on there. It's a very pretty, very I want to say iconic just because it's so recognizable.
Yep.
Recognizable spot. Very
dangerous though. Lost a couple people on that highway. It is very narrow road. So, but they filmed it, and it was back when it was like the old way, where there was not really any guardrails.
Yeah, you can tell in this shot. This shot's funny because you see her driving towards the bridge past Campbell Lake, and then the next shot is her driving off the bridge, but it's on the wrong side of the bridge. Yeah. You never actually see her get onto Whidbey Island. You're seeing her go towards the bridge and then coming off the bridge on the same side, but they're playing it off like she just got onto the island.
Right.
And also the fact that she's going over Deception Pass to get to a mountain town.
Yeah, which that's like going towards North Bend. It's not like going to Whidbey. It's the other direction.
So I mean, I'm sure that they did it for the imagery because there's also no other reason why she would be anywhere near Deception Pass when she lives in Seattle. That's already a 2-hour drive. Right. So anyway,
at this time it was like an hour and 30 minutes before I-5 traffic became completely insane.
So she goes to the Shelton Mountain Inn, and then where do you think this is supposed to take place?
Where is the Shelter Mountain Inn supposed to be? I think like North Bend. I think like in the I-90 corridor.
Yeah, Snoqualmie area. Snoqualmie,
yeah. Because it's the geography that they want in our heads is that direction.
I could also see places like up north, more on the Cascade Highway.
Well, it's interesting that you said that because the Shelter Inn, the place that it takes place, the place they filmed, is actually here in Bellingham. So
yeah. Yeah, I was going to mention that too, is that it features scenes from Whatcom County. I don't think it's Bellingham in particular, but it's
off the lake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Off Whatcom? Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, you did say that. Yeah.
It's like one of those old camps that they used to have back in the 70s that they turned into a site for the photography.
Yeah, so we're playing around with the geography of the state, but we're still in the state in like pretty recognizable places.
Pretty iconic locations.
Yeah, so she tells the receptionist at this hotel that she just wanted to get into the mountains. She specifically requests cabin 12 because that's the one Katie stayed at. And he says that they didn't pay and that they complained about the TV while they were there. Speaking of the TV, they have like a library of tapes that you can, take to your room to watch, which is pretty common if you're in places like these.
Right.
She finds the one tape that sort of sticks out, because it's like a home filmed tape, like home recorded tape, not like a branded tape.
Right. It's not in a case or anything like that. Well, not to that.
So she ends up taking that tape back to her cabin. Also, the cabin itself was filmed in Stanwood. Mm-hmm. So a little fun fact.
Little drop.
Yeah, I also have here Skycomish, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Is a place that this could be. It's about the same area.
Actually, a good point.
We're in the Stanwood cabin. It's a very pretty place. I feel like I could find this easily.
Yeah.
Listen, maybe I won't give away our money-making idea. If there's enough people who are super into the ring, perhaps Matt and I will create a tourism
Drop
trip.
it in the comments if you're interested.
I don't think anybody listening to us is interested, but perhaps we'll make that anyway.
Yeah, we learned from our trip to New Orleans. We're gonna cash in on some of Washington's horror sites.
Yeah. Getting back to it, she goes in the cabin and watches the tape.
And it's a messed up tape.
And it's just full of creepy imagery mostly. I mean, I don't know if you have any like ones that stick out to you in particular.
The one that sticks out the most is woman at the mirror. Just that like image. In the ring, the actual ring itself. It's a very distinct image.
There's a plot relevant fly in one of the images.
Yes, and then in the tree.
There's a chair that spins around, which is like very, I don't know, like iconic sidekick, imagery.
Yeah.
And then there's a tree.
A tree with
a plot relevant tree.
Fire red leaves.
Yeah, and they show, I mean, like, this is so obvious to anyone who's paying any sort of attention, so I'll just say it now, that, like, they showed this tree outside the cabin
several times
right before you watch the tape, and if you are paying attention, you're like, oh, that's that tree outside.
Right.
Rachel doesn't connect it.
I
don't know why.
It's crazy because the red leaves are shining in the light and it's making the room red.
Oh yeah, like everything's red in this.
Like,
yeah.
Oh.
But also, it's just like a very like obvious skyline. Like right. I don't know why she didn't like look out her window and be like, oh look, it's that tree. That's weird.
Sure, a journalist, she's not really looking at the clues.
Not very observant.
Yeah.
I had a question, which is if you stop watching the ring tape, does it count?
I think it does.
If you watch it halfway, does it count?
I think it does.
Perhaps this is the question they answer in Rings.
They might have, but I feel like once you, like, the whole idea is, like, once you start watching it, you're, like, compelled to continue to finish.
Like, you can't stop?
Right. Because it's, like, all this imagery and all this.
But what if your power goes out halfway?
I mean, in Washington, too, there's a good chance of that happening.
Her phone rings after it's finished. The phone in the hotel room, the motel room, whatever, rings, and she picks it up, and it's 7 days.
You know, oh my gosh, did that like build up to that moment? Like watching the thing with her, it's like you're almost like you watched it.
Yeah.
They're really playing it into it.
And here's where I first note that the rain is a little too heavy.
Mikayla's got the rain meter.
I do. Okay, so this is, I think, when I'm saying this, we've transitioned back to Rachel's apartment is when I'm saying that the rain is a little too heavy. Oops, sorry. Here we see Rachel, again, being a bad mother, and her child taking care of himself fully, making breakfast, going to school. You also get a King County bus. I don't know if you caught that.
I did.
Yeah.
It was the bus. It was the color. It was everything. So
yeah,
I was
the
like,
green
hey!
King County bus. And you also get the kid using an umbrella, which if you are from Washington, you know that is probably the least accurate thing about this movie is that he's wearing or using an umbrella. But I will say he seems like the type of kid to use an umbrella.
He's so off-putting that I'm like, yeah, that's the kid that uses an umbrella.
He would, yeah, like regardless of like how many times it turns inside out. Like perhaps this is the one kid in Seattle that uses an umbrella.
Because that's, Mikayla, you hit the nail on the head. Because it's not that the umbrella is not going to block the rain. It won't, because the wind will wipe you out. Yeah. And people go like, why don't people use umbrellas if it rains so much? And it's like, it's because it's 50-mile-per-hour gust.
And it's also usually not raining enough to like really warrant it.
Just put your hood on.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So Rachel is called over her friend, and while you... like the two, her friend is Noah. The two meet outside, like Noah and Aiden intersect outside, and they kind of just stare at each other for a little bit, and then Noah walks inside. Well, no, this is actually like, it makes me sad for Aiden because, spoilers, this is his dad.
Yeah, that. Right.
And his dad doesn't even say hi to him.
That's
he
true.
just stares at him.
He just kind of does do that.
Who's the adult in this situation?
You're right. If that kid was cooked, if that was his dad.
Yeah, both his mom and his dad are bad parents.
And they do not care about him.
And Noah in particular is an absentee father, like true absentee father.
Oh yeah, deadbeat. Yeah. I'm going to say it. I'm going to call it. He's a deadbeat.
Anyway, so Rachel... she calls Noah over. She asks him to take care of picture. It doesn't turn out. She's all blurry faced, like 21 Pilots. He then watches the tape. Like,
oh my gosh.
Rachel shows the tape to him.
I'm sitting here like, Rachel's just showing this thing off. Like, hey, take a look at this.
This is where the University of Kirkland comes back. She's wearing a KU sweatshirt.
Now available at Costco, $12.99.
I don't remember what happens in the rest of the scene besides like Noah is like expressing doubt about the tape. Like
he's doing gaslight gatekeep kind of bull.
Yeah, he is like telling Rachel that she is making something out of nothing. She is full investigation mode now, so she's not going to stop. She says, I'm going to go downtown. She's already downtown.
Yes, which is amazing.
And that was amazing. Like, why are you saying you're going to go downtown? You are currently, like, the most downtown you could do.
And this is Seattle before every, like, 30 inches is a skyscraper. So, like, she is really downtown.
I know.
Like, it's not even...
Do you mean you're going to go to City Center? Because I think that's where the PI used to be housed. It's like...
I'm like, are you going to go 4 blocks?
Yeah, but, like, even that's what I'm saying. Like, she's already close to City Center. It's not like she's in Central District or something. Like...
Right. She's not in, like... She's not off of, like, Montlake area, and she has to, like, take a 10 or 15 minute bus.
Yeah, she's not in University District. Right. She is downtown already.
She's literally right there. And this is before traffic was really bad, too. So it's like... This is like Seattle with like 150,000 people in it, like in the city limits.
Yeah. Here's where you see the PI office that she works in. It's really funny. I took a picture of this. I asked my friends on Facebook if anyone who's worked at the PI could verify that this is what the PI used to look like. And what I got is that it's accurate to what newsrooms looked like. It was not actually filmed at the PI building. It was filmed, I think, in Berkeley. It might have been
or
more
LA.
southern LA. Yeah, it could have been LA. So it's filmed in a different location in LA as a stand-in for the PI, but the PI's newsroom probably looked very similar.
Yeah.
So
the paper everywhere was such a holdover from like a different time.
Yeah, stacks and stacks and stacks of paper. They do have computers. They're super early on. Windows.
The archives are archives.
She goes into the archives, and they're true archives, not just internet archives or digital archives.
Like microphage archives.
Yeah.
It's made me just tear up a little bit.
Yeah. I think it would have been a little bit more fun if they filmed in the newsroom, and they had actual newsroom reporters.
They used the name.
I know, that's why I'm like, if they had actual newsroom reporters as extras in the back, I don't know.
We could have kept the PI open with the ring. If they had just filmed inside the building, they could have turned it into like a historical site or something.
Yeah. So she makes a copy of the tape at work.
She does do that.
Which is very plot relevant.
And, you know, after knowing that there's a potential this film could allegedly kill you, the first thing I would have done is not do that. I was like, I might have to take this one with me.
Yeah, and also there's Noah's
now you've contextualized Noah. He's such a deadbeat.
Oh yeah, you didn't think of that.
No. I did. I just have forgotten. He's such not a big character in my head compared to Hiruko Sanada's character in the Ringu, who's like, he's an active participant in the plot. This guy's more like things are happening to him.
He's very one-dimensional. Yeah.
And I feel like Hiruka, putting a B actor up to Hiruka Sanada is kind of a fool's errand. He's a very good actor versus him. Watch Shogun.
So she makes a copy. She goes back to Noah's house, and they're talking about the footage, looking it over again. And he is expressing that it's, like, weird that you, like, not sure how it's filmed because you can't see a camera in the reflection of the mirror that Matt mentioned earlier. There's a woman looking in the mirror, and you're at the correct angle where you should see a camera, but you don't.
Right.
And this is where we get Assistant Beth coming in.
Yeah, baby Beth.
This is Polly Peretti, and she's in this movie for approximately 3 minutes.
Literally, probably did not even have to be.
This is the most nothing character ever.
Right.
And me and Matt were talking about this, like what they're trying to do with this character. They could have easily just done.
Could have been off screen. Literally, he'd just been like, "I have dinner" or something.
A phone call,
or he's like, "I have to go because I have dinner with the."
She sees a
NCIS
calendar,
lady.
Like, she sees a date in his calendar. It literally, she did not need to be in this movie.
I will say one thing about this movie. The casting, they look like normal people.
Yeah.
Like, that was the thing that really caught me off guard watching a older horror film. Because, like, I'm not saying that newer horror films are bad or whatever, but in the age of, like, everyone's on social media, like, people look like social media people. Like, they have very emotive faces and stuff like that. The actors in this movie look like normal people, which kind of, I think, lends a little bit to the realism of the film. Just a note, because I saw her, and I was like, wow, she looks like a normal person.
Yeah. Again, she does not need to be in here. Also, she's a journalism student at Kirkland, so, like, just to hate Noah a little bit more, like, he's also a creep, you know?
Yeah, he's giving Drake vibes for sure.
He's dating an undergrad.
Yeah, and he's clearly been graduated and teaching for a long time.
Yeah, like Rachel's established in his
Rachel's got to be in her mid-30s. Maybe early 30s.
He also owns this, like, art studio apartment. It's like a whole floor of a warehouse, basically. Right. It's huge. Again, how much money do these people have?
Yeah, if he's a professor, he makes no money. Yeah. Like, it's crazy.
Anyway, it's, like, not...
The economy of films makes you so mad.
And I don't think that it's ever said that he's actually dating Beth. But...
It's deeply implied.
It's implied that he has the hots for her.
Right. There's some kind of an emotional connection.
Yeah, because it's his assistant.
And she gives, watching her interact with Naomi Watts, she definitely gives, like, this is my area.
Yeah, like jealousy vibes.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, they have, like, this moment where they're, like, she gets jealous, and this is where you find out that he's Aiden's father.
Way to just drop that on everybody too, by the way. Like, he's like she's like, he's your son. And we're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like you said, like, the way he was just looking at this kid on the way in, he just stares at this child, and then she's like, "You're his dad."
Yeah, I know it. It's so. Listen, I could really get away. Like, we could do without this whole thing, except for
the subplot of this. Yeah.
There's a reason they have Noah in this film, but like,
yeah, the whole dad thing though, like
so dumb.
Like I said, Hiruka Sanada's character in Ringu, it makes sense, and they're formerly married. Like they were like openly a couple. They're not like hiding it or anything like that.
I lied. I think this is where you figure out they had a romantic relationship. And later you find out he's his dad. Anyway, we gotta listen. I got so many pages of notes that we still have yet to go through. So she leaves. She walks under a ladder, which is funny, and she like turns back and looks at it, and it looks like one of the images on the ring tape, which is why they include it. It's like one of the images was a ladder leaning against the wall, and then a guy comes and he's like, "Careful,
hey, watch out, lady."
Yeah, he's like, I don't remember. He's like, I don't remember what he says. It's like bad luck or something. Like
it's
that.
bad luck to walk under a ladder.
Yeah, she goes to speak to Becca, who is Katie's friend. Just as a reminder.
Yes.
She's currently in a mental institution, and then Rachel asks Becca, like, she says, "I need to know what happened. How did Katie die?" And Becca says she'll show you, and then she says 4 days. So Becca's a little creepy now.
Yeah, and Becca went from being just a normal teenage girl to just completely broken up, which is really sad.
Yeah. Oh, we misspoke earlier. It was not Campbell Lake. It was Pass Lake.
It's Pass Lake.
It's Pass.
They're right next to each other. Yeah. Literally like a mile apart.
So, small correction.
Small correction, and if you've been in that area, you see both. Yeah.
I also have, apparently, any sort of proximity with Samara, if you're young enough, perhaps, gives you psychic abilities, because now Becca has psychic abilities.
Yeah.
Or, like, psychic damage of some kind.
Right.
Yeah.
She leaves her taint on people.
If you were interested in what the apartments are that she lives in, they are the Harbor Step Apartments.
Hey.
We also see the Viaduct. Rest in peace.
Oh, rest in peace. Well, I was like, where's Phoenix Jones beating up people?
I know. Check out that episode if you haven't already.
Here's a shout out. Don't give all the locations away. We gotta set up the tour.
Okay. Okay, so she goes back and looks through the tape, and she's printing out stills from the tape.
Mm-hmm.
And then while she's there, she sees something on the edge of a frame, and she expands the image. I don't know how this worked in tapes. I don't think this is technically possible.
This is the perfect movie. Enhance.
Yeah.
Enhance.
So she like stretches out the tape to see a lighthouse. She's in, I don't know what this is, because it certainly didn't exist when I was conscious enough. But she's like in this place where you can go in to watch and copy tapes.
Yeah, it's essentially like a news booth.
Oh, okay.
That's like news booth gear.
This is news stuff. Yeah. This isn't like a random.
No.
Oh, I always thought it was like a random business that they had.
No, this was like archival.
Okay.
That's why the lady had like the microphone to be like, "Hey, if you have any issues, call me," because she's at the front desk. Mm-hmm. This is like what I took from it was either this is at the PI or this is at UW. One or the other. But they didn't say.
Yeah.
They kind of just were like, she's just getting the tape remade.
Okay. I always thought this was a storefront, and that's why I was like, I don't know what this is.
It's not a storefront.
Okay. No. Another thing that you'll see is the plot relevant fly.
Ooh,
because these tapes are not ordinary tapes. They are supernatural powered tapes, and the fly, Naomi Watts / Rachel just kind of picks it out of the film itself. So she reaches into the TV and pulls out a fly like she's Mike TV and Willy Wonka.
That scene lives rent-free in my head.
Yeah.
Just like the idea, like how many times have you had like a bug on the TV or something?
Yeah.
And like in real life, of course, you just pick it off. But the idea that it's in the tape and then
like a speck on your screen.
Right, a speck on your screen. And then in this case, she pulls the fly off the.
Yeah. Oh, what was I going to say about... Oh, she had noticed the fly was, like, kind of moving, regardless of the tape being paused first, and then she reached out and pulled it out. It bothers Matt way more than it bothers me.
And I don't even have a problem with bugs. I just don't like the idea of, like, the TV. It kind of... I mean... It kind of does that thing where it's like, the TV told me. Like, he kind of plays with that a little bit.
And then her nose bleeds after this happens as well. Psychic damage. Taking damage in the warp. She goes to the library to figure out where the heck this lighthouse is.
Man, they really missed an opportunity with that library.
I know. It's a very nice library. And we were like, okay, where is this library at? Turns out it's from USC.
Yeah. I thought it was Suzzallo at first, because I was like, well, they're in Seattle. They could have just gotten the Suzzallo. They really avoided UW in this movie.
Well, you know what? My theory is that this was like a added scene, that they had to reshoot something for context, because to find out where the lighthouse was.
Yeah.
That's kind of my theory. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's just easier to film at USC than it is at UW
or in
LA.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, the University of Kirkland, using UCLA, they really just don't want to ever go to UW. They're trying to avoid it at all costs. They don't even say it during the football game they announce.
Okay. Will you look up where the lighthouse is? Because
it's in Oregon, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but the city in particular, because I have it written sloppily, so I want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Oh, it's Newport.
Newport, okay.
Newport, Oregon. It's the Yaquina.
Okay. Okay, so she finds out where the lighthouse is, and this lighthouse does exist in Oregon, not in Washington.
Close enough. We'll call it.
I think it officially in Universe of the Ring exists on Mosquito Island.
Yeah, which is kind of like a San Juan Island.
Yeah, it's definitely a San Juan Island.
It's not a Whidbey. It's a San Juan for sure.
No, it is a San Juan. She has to take a ferry to get there. We'll get to it, but the actual lighthouse is in Oregon, and it's Yaquina Bay in Newport, Oregon. And you can tell by the rocks that it's not a Washington lighthouse.
The coastline's very different.
Yeah. But it's pretty.
It's beautiful. It looks like the Admiralty Inlet lighthouse a little bit. So I always was like, ah.
Yeah, so she figures out where this place is. And she starts to dig into the people who live at this place.
Right.
So I don't remember how she finds the family, but she does find,
I think it's through horse competitions.
Yeah. But I don't know how she knows to look for the name of the family is what I mean. But she does find, maybe it's because it's off. I think what happens is like she sees the actual view of the lighthouse and like figures out where you have to be from wherever, and then looks at property land to find the name of the people who would have this view of the lighthouse. Anyway, she finds out that they are horse people.
Mikayla, do you feel seen?
Yeah, they are. Rachel is searching through the archives, finds things about their horse competitions. They're very accomplished horsemen. And also, I wanted to point out that their name is Morgan,
which is a horse. I was like, damn.
Yep, I know.
They really got us on this one.
They also find out that the mom started going crazy, I think, here. Like, she was having hallucinations and stuff.
They also find out that the horses had a mysterious illness in the archive, right?
Yeah.
Like, on the island, something was making the horses sick. They're making the horses sick.
She also finds out that, or finds that there is a photo with a scratched out face, just like she saw in Katie's room.
Right.
All right. I felt like I needed to write down is that it cost $15.33 for cigarettes and food for Noah at this corner store that he went into.
Man, bring me back.
Yeah. And also you find out in this corner store that Noah's face is now blurry in the security camera footage. So obviously, he never got the call for 7 days. I don't remember.
He ignored it.
Oh,
he just never picked it up because he didn't believe it.
He didn't pick up the phone. So
iconic Noah behavior.
He missed his warning.
Yet again, another phone call he's been dodging.
But he is now being blurry faced on security cameras, so it's taken a hold of him as well.
Right.
I also wrote down here absent mother of the year because Rachel is the whole thing.
She spends the whole time not even like giving her kid like a end of the night call or like how was school. It just
this whole movie. I mean, the thesis of this movie is that Rachel's a bad mom.
She's an awful mother.
I think that's the point.
She endangers her child throughout the film. She neglects her child throughout the film. It is incredible how poorly she treats this child.
Yeah. They do say that the island, Mosquito Island, is out of state, so maybe canonically it is Oregon still.
Yeah, maybe they went to Oregon instead.
Because they say alternatively, it is excused for her sister because she's dropping Aiden off at her sister's house.
Yeah.
So it's either an excuse to be like, please take him because I'm going out of state, and
I think she might be lying though.
That's what I got. I got the vibe that she was lying.
I got the vibe she lies a lot.
Yeah.
And I know that she's a journalist, but like she lies to people that are near her and close to her.
Yeah. I don't know exactly where in this. Aiden gave her a photo is also important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what's on the photo. Do you remember? He drew something for her.
Is it with him? Isn't it them all together?
I think it's them all together at the house or something.
Yeah. At that house.
Yeah.
That we'll see.
The Morgan house.
Yes, the Morgan house.
So anyway, she also at this time pukes up a huge ball of hair, which is probably the worst scene in the movie.
Triggered.
Actually, that's pretty gross.
That triggered me so much while watching it because Watts is such a good actor that the retching just feels like she's just gonna throw up everywhere.
Right. Here's also where she sees a vision of Samara in a puddle of water.
Mm-hmm.
Then the vision of the mental institution.
Right.
And then she wakes up with a handprint on her arm.
Mm-hmm. Like she's been touched.
Yeah. And, I think before she was just trying to convince her sister to take Aiden on the phone.
Right.
They aren't at her sister's house yet. She was just talking to her sister on the phone asking if she could watch Aiden because she's going out of state. Because when she wakes up and has this handprint on her arm, she finds Aiden watching the tape.
Yeah. Also, the fact that she didn't, like, put that away or lock that up somewhere and she just, like, had it in the like near the VHS player was crazy.
I know. Also, he calls her Rachel.
Oh.
Did you notice that? He doesn't call her mom.
Mikayla.
This kid is neglected.
Mikayla.
Noah calls at this point. He's freaking out.
He's tweaking.
Yeah, and this is where you do learn that Noah is Aiden's father because she says something to the effect of like, your son just watched the tape or something like that.
Bruh, she dropped that like a rock.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a twist. Listen, I've seen this before, so I feel like I already knew that. I don't know if that was a shocking twist to anybody.
But like they don't really talk about their relationship outside of, oh, it was fun then, but you know, we've moved on. And then it's like, but Aiden's your kid. Like, it wasn't like your relationship just ended.
Yeah, I don't think that they do a very good job at developing this relationship between Rachel and Noah. So,
no,
I don't really care that he's Aiden's father, except that he's even a worse
It's not even relevant to the plot at all, basically. Except a couple, like one scene.
I also did question if Aiden knew it was his father or if that's a secret.
He seems to know.
But it seems to me like he knows because he's staring at, in that scene I talked about earlier. It hinted
deeply that he already knew.
Yeah. It also seems like he'd be the type of a kid who
figure it out.
Yeah.
There's that moment when he starts talking. I don't know. This is a little bit later, but he starts talking about like, I never knew my dad was pretty bad too. You know, like he starts going on like, I regret it, and maybe we can hang out for like a day to make up for being a deadbeat.
Yeah.
I was just like, what is happening in this movie?
I also made a note, big creepy kid. Another creepy kid. Yeah, just, you know.
There's so many creepy kids in this movie.
Here then we have another shot of Deception Pass.
Beautiful.
And she's driving off the island.
And it's gorgeous.
It's shot to make it look like she's driving onto the island.
You saw that helicopter shot? That's a helicopter shot.
Oh, it was very nice. Yeah, they had some great helicopter shots. This is before the era of drone photography.
And it was
they had to pay big money for that.
And to get FAA clearance in that area too at that time period. Oof.
So she gets on. She's driving on the island. I don't know if it's like supposed to be canonically the island, but she's getting on the Port Townsend ferry.
The real life Port Townsend ferry.
Yeah, and that's the Quinault ferry, and you see it. It's a real ferry.
It's the real deal. Thing.
I wonder how much it costs to decommission that ferry for the day.
I was wondering if they had to get a second ferry to like carry real people and then have fake people on the fictional ferry, because they use the real thing. That was really cool.
Yeah, this is probably the most iconic Western Washington scene is the ferry. I think it's so cool.
Clearly before the recession. These are movies before the recession.
Also, the island that they're going to is
Fort Warden.
Sorry.
Yeah. And you could see it from the Port Townsend ferry. So they just took a shot of the fort from the ferry and then used that as like where the island was. Yeah, it was really cool.
So I guess here we established for sure that she was lying about.
Yeah. She's 100% lying.
Out of state because
there's still Washington license plates where she's at.
Yeah. So. We also, I think, skip past where she does drop her kid off at her sister's house and all that.
She's so bad at being a mom in this movie.
She goes to the island to like snoop around and poke around. She realizes that Anna Morgan had a daughter. I put here that very empty ferry ride.
Yeah, very light.
Very empty ferry. She's still on the ferry, by the way, when she realizes that Anna Morgan had a daughter. She's like doing some research. She finds a horse that's in a trailer.
This is the most memorable scene of the film.
Yes, this is the best scene of the film.
Yeah. And, this is the money right here.
This is so peak Western Washington too. But I will say, she is so dumb in this scene.
Terrible.
Like, I don't know.
Just idiotic.
So she comes up to this horse and she touches it. First of all, why are you touching this horse?
Through the trailer.
Yeah. And it freaks out. And instead of, like, backing off and, like, walking away, because obviously the horse is bothered by you, she tries to calm the horse down, which makes things worse.
Yeah. I was like, this person clearly never has seen a horse before.
Yeah. It was very, very, frustrating to watch.
The listeners weren't with me when I saw Mikayla's face during that scene because Mikayla was very upset. She was like, just like,
dude, like, common sense, like, get away from the horse. Yeah,
back away. Do not try to like touch it more.
Go tell somebody there's a horse freaking out down here. Go get its own.
Also, Department of Transportation staff will be like, someone with a horse trailer, please come and kneel with your horse.
Yeah. Anyway, so the horse breaks free of its trailer. I think it kicks it open, and then it's running through the ferry. Yeah. Like, it runs back and forth a few times, which is really. I'm sure that they did this when it was not
filled with people.
On water or something. I think it was on land.
They probably just like let it to do its like rounds back and forth a couple times, and then they composited it while the boat was moving to kind of give it the same, because there are a couple digital shots in this. You could tell.
So, but they had the horse on the ferry for sure.
At one point,
it was like jumping over like crab pots and
like props on the set.
Yeah,
the animal actors in this movie, very good animal actors.
And then the horse decides to jump off the ferry. It clips its legs, it breaks its legs, it falls into the ferry, falls into the Pacific Ocean, the Puget Sound, and then it gets run over by the boat, and it gets chopped up by the propeller blade. And it's a sad.
It's very brutal. But also, that film makes no like qualms. A horse will not stop a Washington Ferry propeller. It will not. Yeah. That was brutal. I mean, it's brutal in the sense of like, yeah, you know, that's not real, but like just it's something that could happen in your head if you're from here. People have I go on ferries all the time. You would be amazed the amount of livestock that get carried on ferries back and forth going off of islands. Yeah. It's or across the water, like from the peninsula to Seattle, like downtown Seattle. People bring their like cows through. Yeah. You know, it's not uncommon if people are trying to get from place to place. So.
And this is like a horse that was like some kids. Yeah, they were probably at a horse competition.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. Oh, it was a hard walk. That was a hard scene. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, it was pretty dramatic.
Yeah. So while Rachel, did Noah go with Rachel on the island?
No.
The institution is somewhere else.
Yeah, right? They have like a split. This is like a video game where they're like you take this mission and then Noah takes the other mission and they both go to different places. Yeah. Which is kind of cool that they incorporated something like that into the movie. But Ringu has a similar thing too, so. Okay,
so Noah is somewhere else. He goes to the institution that Samara, which we don't know her name yet. Right. Was staying at. So he's looking up records for Anna Morgan at the institution because they know that she was institutionalized there. HIPAA is new at this point. Yeah. So like that is actually a complication that they wouldn't have run into if this had been a few years earlier.
Literally, if this movie was like 4 years older and the plot took place 4 years older, they would have just gone in and be like, I need to know about this person. And they would just be like, here's the file.
Yeah, which is also probably why they're so strict about HIPAA in this. They're like giving no wiggle room at all. But he ends up breaking into the archives. Yeah. He sees the fly on the door, the plot relevant fly. Yeah, it's back. And then we flip over to Rachel. Supposed to be in San Juan or a San Juan adjacent island. One of the islands. But the actual shots of like the farm that she is visiting, 'cause she's visiting Anna Morgan's husband, those are all shot in Monroe.
Yeah, and it looks like old Washington.
Oh yeah, I have in here the mossy wood of the
ceiling roof.
Of the building itself is very Washington.
Oh, when I saw that, I was like, I've seen that building for sure somewhere, and probably have because I've been to Monroe when I was in high school, which was like 2006, 2007.
So she goes up to this man. To ask about the horses. This man being Anna Morgan's husband.
Being Brian Cox. Yeah, Brian Hannibal Cox. Lecter. Yeah. And what's the guy's name from Succession? The bad guy. Logan Roy from Succession. I was just waiting for him just to cuss her out and to tell her to, shove off.
So she talks to Mr. Morgan. She finds out that most of the horses drowned.
Yeah. Which... foreshadowing on the boat.
Oh yeah. Well, yes. Yeah, I see what you're saying. The foreshadowing happened earlier. Yeah. She asked him if he knows about the tape, and he freaks out and asks her where she got it from, and she's like,
"Bro, his face." I will say, Brian Cox sells the hell out of this.
Yeah. He also asks if it's the only one that exists.
Right. Yeah. He loses it on her. Like, he goes from, like, kind of just, like, annoyed farmer to just, like, psycho. Just, like, get out of her.
Right. He says that he doesn't have a daughter. And I think tell her to get out at this point.
There was a moment where they kept hinting like he was going to grab a weapon to kill her. Like there were several scenes. Like they showed like the, what do you call it? The sled, not a sledgehammer, but like a hammer. They show a scythe, like a wheat, wheat scythe, like where you use to cut grass with, like in your hand. and like he reaches just for a non-threatening item, but like they emphasize that like he's thinking like I should just like or I could just.
They definitely play with like she feels like she's in danger the whole time,
and that he's the danger explicitly, which that was really cool to kind of play with. We know that Brian Cox played Hannibal Lecter in a previous film, and so like playing that up a little bit.
Yeah, we're back. We go back to Noah. We cut back to Noah.
The less compelling side quest.
Yeah. There is a small nod of towards the Japanese version on Anna's files. Yeah. I can't remember what it was. Do you remember what it was? It might just be that there was Japanese in her file. Yeah, itself.
Like there was like notes in Japanese, which they're implying the doctor might have been Japanese or something like that.
I thought it was like implied that she knew Japanese.
That too. But I'm just saying like the some of the notes of the doctor were also taken in Japanese too. So like I said, like I don't know if they were like. There's a Japanese connection, but it's a clear nod to the original.
Yeah. He also gets Noah gets a nosebleed while looking at the archive files. Like we saw Rachel get a nosebleed earlier. He then sees a note that directs him to watch a tape.
Bro, that tape. This tape was wild.
I have Aiden has been scribbling rings / the well. Mm-hmm. On his drawings, and then he said that he drew them at the house because the little girl told him to, and she shows me things. I don't know if I put that here because it happens here or because I thought, oh, that was relevant.
It's because the aunt asked, why is he drawing those over and over again, I believe.
Okay.
It's like, what you got there? It's like, Rachel's such a bad mom.
So she gets a call from her sister, and that's what. Oh, okay. She finds a doctor's office that treated Anna on the island itself. So we're back to Rachel. Listen,
it keeps going back and forth,
cutting back and forth. The doctor, when Rachel asked about them, had said like she hadn't heard that name in a very long time. Anna used to come see the doctor, and she had visions. And she was referred over to Eola Psych on the mainland. And she kind of assumed Anna was still there. So she hasn't heard from Anna.
In a long time.
And doesn't want to. Basically tells Rachel to leave it alone.
Right.
She says, like, bad things come with that, around that family.
Which the dad implied.
Yeah.
But he didn't imply there was a daughter, but he did imply that, like, bad things happened to his wife.
Back at Noah, he convinces the security guard to show him the tapes. And when they get to it, the tape is missing, actually. And then, he convinced the security guard to let him do this by saying he was, Samara... Anne's husband or Samara's dad,
father,
one of the two,
which is crazy.
And when he asks like who is the last person to watch it, he's like the attendant was like, you were Richard Morgan. Anyway, it's just it's not actually that matters not that much, but anyway.
Well, the tape matters.
The tape matters. The framing doesn't.
Quite a lot.
Yeah. Rachel goes back to the Morgan house and she finds the door open. This is where she sees the lighthouse shining directly into his house. This is like a cool lighting thing that they do. Is like it lights up when the lighthouse spins around.
Right.
But also, can you imagine how annoying that would be to have as your house?
Oh, I can imagine.
Oh my gosh, it'd be so annoying.
Like a third of the houses in Oak Harbor are like that.
That'd be
because
so
of the
awful.
light tower from the airstrip, the military airstrip. You just have a light going through your house like at every 15 seconds.
So Rachel's just trespassing at this point. She finds Samara's birth records, and
there's some interesting almost like MK Ultra coded stuff going on with her her birth.
She finds some tapes of Samara at the hospital. I think the ones that Noah was looking for.
And then talking about and Morgan trying to get pregnant.
Oh, right, yeah.
There's like a bunch of like, she tried, failed, and then they must have put like the demon baby.
MK Ultra baby.
MK Ultra demon baby.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how subtly it's implied that Samara is an MK Ultra experiment. She doesn't sleep. She has psychic abilities.
Yeah. And she's like mean. Like in her visioning and like how she projects into people's brains. It's not like I'm just talking to mommy. It's like, I want mom to like kill herself kind of stuff.
And then they're asking her how she made the pictures that are seen on the tape. Mm-hmm. And she says, I don't make them. I see them. Then they just are. So like, right. But she makes those pictures with her brain.
Right. But also because she's some kind of a telepath, that is relevant to the rest of it. Because in that scene, she is under observation. Those scenes come later.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Samara says she doesn't want to hurt people, that she just does. Which we'll put a pin in that. Yeah.
They can't see my face. What?
Yeah. So we cut back to seeing Rachel instead of seeing the tapes, and Mr. Morgan is standing behind her. And then he takes a cast iron, I think it is.
Yeah.
And hits her over the head with it.
Dings her with it.
Just to phase her enough that he can take the TV. So he takes the TV out, unplugs it.
He says to turn the TV off.
Yeah. And okay. This is when Rachel accuses him of killing Samara. Mm-hmm. And she's following him into a flooded bathroom.
Right.
She's following him through the house as she's accusing him of killing Samara.
Right.
They get to a flooded bathtub. He stands in the bathtub. He plugs in the TV.
Right.
It's still turned off at this point because he has like a little extension cord. Mm-hmm. What are they called?
Power outlet or a surge protector.
Surge protector, yes.
Oh, he is not protecting from the surge in this one.
Yeah. Basically, he says Samara is evil and that Anna was never supposed to have a kid.
He says also that she killed Anna.
Yeah, that he killed Anne. Is it Anne or Anna? Anyway.
Which is a lot of information drop because they've been hinting this whole time ever since we met him that he killed both of them.
And when I tell you this bathroom is flooded, it's fully flooded. He has the bath fully flooded, the sinks running and fully flooded, like it's covered in water, and he's standing in the flooded bathtub. And I don't know how Rachel doesn't see this coming with the fact that he has taken every electronic he possibly could in his house and put it in the water, plugged into a surge protector, but he flips the switch and kills himself with electrocution.
Yeah.
She didn't see that coming, apparently.
How I know that's fake. None of the houses in Western Washington, that old's wiring's good enough to sustain that much electrical.
He only needs one spark, I guess.
My power at my house in Oak Harbor would have flipped off as soon as you like turn on all of them at the same time.
Yeah, this stuff is also pretty brutal.
Oh, it's gruesome.
Yeah. I said it's a little overkill, but I think I was referring to him putting that many electronics.
Yeah, he didn't have to do all that.
I don't think you needed to do that many electronics, my guy. I think you got it.
He like put the microwave on in that.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to really be sure.
He wanted it to be an insta-kill. Like, yeah, and yet again, Brian Cox plays this broken, scared. He's kind of scared too. Like, he's like, this person, his daughter, or he doesn't even call her daughter. Like, he's like, it's a thing more than a person. But, like, this thing, like, killed my wife. It tried to kill me. Like, he's losing his mind, too. Which also, I think, kind of plays into what you were saying, where it's like, everyone who's touched by her, like, loses their mind at some level.
Yeah.
Because he's never watched that video.
Yeah.
But he just loses it. Because she's such a malicious force.
So at this point, Noah shows up.
Oh yeah, at the house.
At the house.
That's where the plot kind of gets very plotty, in my opinion.
Like... Oh yeah, things start going quick. So they go out to the barn and they find that long ladder that they saw in the visions, and that they climb up it. It leads her to where Samara's bedroom was, which was the hayloft
in the barn.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he really didn't like this child.
He really did not like this kid.
They have toys there, but they also have, importantly, a TV.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Also.
And also the chair that you see.
Uh-huh, and then there's more.
Under the wallpaper,
uh-huh.
She peels back the wallpaper, and she finds something etched / burned into the wood. And it's the tree design.
Right.
It's a tree. And then this is where she figures out it's that tree that I saw over at the mountains.
Right.
Yeah. So we're in Act 3 now.
We're in the end game now.
We're literally day 7. It's a little pops up. It says, day 7. We're back to the mountain. There is a Shelter Peak. Oh, okay. So
they go back.
Yeah, they go back to a place called Shelter Mountain, there is a Shelter Peak in Washington. It's in the Olympic National Park. I just put that out as a fun fact. Like technically this place could exist.
It could be. Yeah, it could be.
She realizes that the cabin was built over something because they check out cabin 12 again.
Yeah. Her and Noah.
Yeah. And then they realize like the middle of the floor is like sunken in, and that's how they realize it was built over something. They like roll a marble down, and it like goes to the center of the floor too.
Right.
So they decide to break through the floor, and they find a well that this cabin was built over. I want to know who built this cabin.
I know, this is like the county just let this one slide straight.
Right, because you find out this is the well that Samara was put in alive. By her father. Mm-hmm. So, like, did her father, like, know somebody? but to build it specifically over the well.
Right, in specific, the well
is a very deliberate choice. Like, did he know the person that was developing it? Did he develop it? Like, what's the deal? Why did they
wonder
choose
what the
build over a well?
I wonder what the pre-app meeting was at. Like, I'm guessing this is like this is Eastern King County. It's like, or Snohomish County, like you said, like, and it's just like, so why do you want to keep the well?
Well, also, like, how cold is that cabin?
Right, with a well underneath it. Yeah, it must be freezing in that room because the well is right there.
I also did want to say, like, this is super accurate to Washington because we have so many wells.
So many hand-dug wells.
Yes.
So many old wells. You could fall down a well while hiking, like, very easily in the state. It's very scary.
So at this point, water is leaking from the TV. The nails are peeling out of the floorboard. So, like, supernatural spooky stuff.
It's that 7 days, man.
It's going on. Yeah, Rachel is basically out of time at this point. They try to test the well to see how deep it goes. I don't know if that's regulation well. I don't know how deep it's supposed to go.
That well clearly was not dug before state regulations.
It was so deep.
Very old. Wells can go deep. It's just old. Like, it's an old stone well, and there's not many of those, like, dug that deep.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's magic.
She also, the plot relevant fly appears again here and comes out of the well when they open it. And then
a lot of flies come out of the well. It's like a whole bunch of flies.
Oh, right.
It's like
a whole lot of flies.
A torrent of flies.
Yeah, it must be the flies that were feasting on Samara's body. But I don't know why they're still alive.
No, well, because it's psychic, man. It's all psychic.
Because everything in the room is like supernatural, spooky right now. The TV stand breaks, and then the TV slides towards Rachel and knocks her into the well.
Another case of not turning the TV off.
Yeah. And she falls down. She lands in water. She's fine, but she's in like waist deep water or so, something like that.
Right. No, it seems like it's like up to her chest, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Noah is trying to find a way out to get her out. And while Noah's idiot. He's such an idiot because he goes out. He's trying to find a way to get her out. So he's trying to look for a rope. So he grabs the fire hose. He does. And it only goes like 30 feet and snaps him backward.
Yeah, that was the funny part. Because, like, where do you think the hose is connected to?
I don't know what are you trying to do?
And he, like, runs full speed with it and then just gets yoinked. Like,
how long do you think this thing is? Because that's a very deep well. Like, anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, while Rachel is waiting for him to help her, she finds out that there are nails in the wall, which means that Samara was alive in the well when she was thrown into it.
Right.
So she was trying to claw her way out, and that's how you realize she was alive for 7 days.
Yeah.
Before she died.
This that's also where it ties. This is also why The Ring is a good movie. It takes all the things and it ties it all together. It's like the last image she sees is the light of the well closing, and it's the ring. And then when she says in the video that Noah was in, where she's like, I don't know where these images come from, they just appear in my mind, it means that she's seeing the future. That Samara saw her own death. Yeah. Which is deeply disturbing, but also because she's so, you find out she's so malicious and evil that you're just like,
yeah. So yeah, the well seals up on its own supernaturally, and that's how you see, like Matt said, the image of the ring is actually the light coming through this well closure to form a ring. Rachel then finds Samara's mummified body, which I don't think that's how she would have decomposed in water. I think she would have been liquefied.
Yeah, whatever. She would have been goop.
She finds her and then sees a vision of Samara singing.
So weird. It's a very strange.
Yeah. And as Matt said, we make some of those connections about how much of those visions was Samara's death.
Right.
We also know Anna went to a fertility. This is where we learned that Anna went to a fertility clinic.
Right.
Which is then implying that it was an MK Ultra program that
deeply
Samara. Yeah.
Deeply implies that there is some extra governmental things happening here in this birth.
Oh, I'm sorry. I read my thing wrong up here. We didn't find out. This is where she finds Samara's body. Before, with the visions, we find out that Samara's mom was the one that killed her.
Yes.
And not her dad, we kind of assumed up to this point.
The mom brutally kills her, too.
She says, you were all I wanted, because she wanted so desperately to have a baby, and then she throws Samara into the well and closes her up.
This movie said maybe it's not okay to have kids.
Because she knew she was a weirdo MK Ultra baby.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously Anna
and she was killing everything on the island. She was killing people. She
killed all the horses.
Yeah, because they said at the beginning, or when she first goes to the island, and that doctor said, Anne loved the horses more than anything in the world before she had Samara. And then when she had Samara, she loved her so much. And then it's like, oh, Samara killed the horses. Yeah. Samara hates these people.
Yeah. And okay, so here's where she finds her body.
Yeah.
It's sunset. And then Noah comes back to the well, and he is calling for Rachel, and he's like, Rachel, it's past sunset, you survived. So
right.
No, Rachel takes this to mean that because she freed Samara,
she thinks,
and rescued Samara, that it's over.
She thinks Samara is a victim, a tethered soul to this plane.
Yeah. And also I had an interesting note, before this, Samara didn't come out of the TV. it was just presumably the images and psychic death that was happening to people.
Yeah, people were losing it.
At this point, we'll find out very shortly, Samara actually comes out of the TV to kill you herself now. Yeah,
and I think when we talk about the death, I'll tell you what I think about
that. Before that happens, we're back at the apartment with Aiden. They're a big happy family. No, it's not there. It's just Rachel and Aiden.
Noah didn't show up.
Yeah. And then Rachel tells Aiden, like, it's all good. Like, we figured it out. We rescued Samara. And Aiden goes, you weren't supposed to rescue her. You weren't supposed to let her out.
Right.
He's like freaked out about this.
Yeah, this is the most human we've seen him.
Yeah, he's very afraid.
He's like terrified because from what we've been perceiving this whole time, she's been calling for help. Samara has been calling for help to get Rachel to help her, you know, like I said, move on or whatever you want to call it. Aiden just goes like, you weren't supposed, like, he kind of starts acting like how the dad acted.
Yeah, freaks out about this info. It's interesting because I think this is perhaps the smartest thing that The Ring does is like it gives you this false ending where you feel very safe. You're like, because like you are still under the assumption that Samara was just a kid that was killed,
right?
And like she's having like she's like searching for help and like. Anyway, you would think that this is where a happier movie would end, but
a lesser film would have ended it where she moved on.
In Ringu, was this the same sort of twist?
Yeah.
Twist. Okay.
In Ringu, it was like this kid is a demon.
Okay.
For all, I don't remember if the MK Ultra stuff was in it. I think it is, but if it wasn't, she's just a demon, like an evil kid.
Was the false ending in it? Where
yeah. He Hiroyuki Sanada dies at the end of that movie too. So it's an iconic ending across the first.
Just curious.
But this movie does it well because American audiences for sure think like, oh, it's over.
Yeah. So it's not over. So it's the next day. So guess whose day 7 it is? It's Noah's.
And guess who thinks everything's cool? That's the other problem.
Yeah.
He doesn't think that he's gonna get yoinked.
Because they thought it was done. So he's in his studio art apartment. And then I say studio. This thing is like a full floor.
It's like a huge literal a part of the building.
Yeah. And then his TV turns on to static. And everything gets real creepy, and then we see Samara climb out of that TV with her wet feet.
Right. And it's deeply implied that because Rachel released her, that she now physically can attack.
Which is interesting because I do think that he has maybe a little more violent death because he gets thrown around a little bit.
He gets beat up.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty funny that he was like, oh.
The actual face of his is the same as Katie's.
Yes.
So ultimately she ends up killing him in the same way, but maybe just tortures them a little bit more.
She's enjoying the kill a little bit more.
Yeah, because I think at one point he like breaks something and then he steps in it with bare feet, glass and bare feet. And
it's messy. It's not as messy as Brian Cox's death in this movie.
Yeah.
But it's still like, and you get to see it though. We see it happen and it's rough.
Yeah. And then Rachel, this whole time, is blowing up his phone, trying to get in contact with him, running to his apartment. And she gets there way too late. He's already dead by the time she gets there.
Right.
And I don't know. She, like, is trying to figure out why this happened. But before she can, like, really sit in it there, she has to leave because Polly Peretti is about to discover his body. And also,
another scene just completely not necessary, I guess.
I know. I just like there was no point to that scene. Because, like, it's also not like she sees her at all.
Right.
Like, if Polly Peretti's character had, like, seen Rachel leave.
Right. Or walked into it.
And then discovered the body,
Right.
like, that would add something. But, like, we're at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So, like, but you could, like, imply that she is going to potentially be charged.
Right.
Or, like, found out for this, or whatever, implicated in this murder.
I don't know if we spoil Rings 2, but no.
Yeah. And then...
Or Rings, my bad.
There's Ring 2 and then there's Rings.
Oh, yeah, Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ring 2. Yeah, Ring 2. That happens.
So she goes back home. She's freaking out. She destroys her tape.
Yeah.
Because she's like...
Because she made two... She has two tapes. She has the original...
She forgot at this point.
Yeah, she has the original, and then she threw the tape when Aiden watched it in the copy,
and it's
underneath the couch.
Yeah, it's under the couch. So she freaks out. She breaks her tape, and she's freaking out because she knows that Aiden still is on a timeline, which is, I think he has one more day.
Yeah,
at this point,
right?
With his
or
timeline.
2 days, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And she basically does like a why me? Why did you let me live? She's like on the floor, look, and then she spies the tape, the copy underneath the couch, and she realizes that she made a copy and showed it to someone.
Yeah.
Not just the act of making a copy, but showed it to someone.
You have to kill someone, basically.
So the end of this movie is her making a copy, or using Aiden's hand to make another copy. So he's making a copy of the tape.
Yeah.
And it's deeply implied with this ending, because it's the end of the film, that you just watched the copy of the tape.
Yes.
It's sort of like which is a very fun thing.
I saw the extended scenes of this movie years ago, and one of the final scenes is a Blockbuster.
Look,
the tape being in her tape being at the Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Which is great because my parents rented it from Blockbuster.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that's a deep
Exactly. You could have the original tape.
They did a good job, and it was a solid, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Straight classic. Like, you can watch it, you don't really have to think too hard about it, but also there's things in there that they weave in for the people who are paying attention.
There's enough to chew on for sure. I think that, like we have talked about, there are unnecessary characters.
Yes.
Like we said, Polly Peretti does not need to be in this movie. And Noah's character could be stronger, and I think Rachel's character could be stronger.
The interesting part about it is both Rachel's character and Noah's character in the Japanese film are very much more fleshed out as people. And the actors definitely get more to play with. But I don't know if that's just because of the way Japanese filmmaking is as opposed to American filmmaking, or that they didn't want to draw too much from the Japanese characters, because they change quite a bit about both of them. I don't feel they imply in the Japanese one that he divorces, or he can't be in a relationship with the Rachel character in that one because he's a psychic and he's suffering from all these visions and stuff like that. Which
it's
changes
the Sixth Sense.
Right, which changes the dynamic between them, where it's more there's something in the way between them rather than I'm just a deadbeat.
Yeah.
In this movie, they definitely are he's a deadbeat. He sucks.
I would love one of them to be a good parent.
Yeah. Even if it was him and he was let me be the good parent.
Right.
You can be a bad parent. I can be the good parent. But they're both bad.
Yeah.
They're both bad parents.
Right.
So.
It just isn't. So yeah, I think I agree that if the characters had been a little bit stronger and some of those parts would have been tightened up, it would have been a 10 out of 10. But
that's why I didn't give it a 10, because it wasn't in the range of everything is hitting, everything is good.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, with that deleted scene in my head from all the way back when I was a kid to now, that added into it could have made the movie an 8.59 just because of it's messing with the audience. But it wasn't necessary, and it didn't match the tone. That scene didn't match the tone.
Could you imagine if this film was made 10 years later
Yeah.
And it was Paranormal Activity heyday, and it was a found footage movie. How insane that would
that would have been
that would have gone so hard.
That would have been Paranormal Activity. Like,
I mean,
that level of like boom about that franchise would have been the same for The Ring.
Oh yeah, I think that would have hit, like, because then you're fully in the framed narrative of like, this is truly
it's you.
You're watching a real thing, and you just fucked up because you just watched it.
Now you die.
Have 7 days. Yeah, I think the paranoia. I mean, it was very effective. In 2002.
There's never a moment in the movie where you feel like you're in the movie's plot, even though they try to do it several times. There's never a moment where you're like, oh, this is just a movie. Or you're never not like, oh, this is just a movie. Because it's shot like a movie.
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity, if this was like Paranormal Activity, this movie would have made people go crazy.
If it was full found footage, yeah.
If this was... when did Paranormal Activity come out? Like 2000, like...
It was actually 2007, so this was only 5 years. Oh, so they missed it by like 5 years. Yeah, 5 years too early.
Dude, this movie would have killed if it was a found footage film.
Yeah.
This would have raped it.
I mean, it still does. And, like, it's interesting because, like, the technology advance, you're thinking about it, like, this is very technology dependent.
Right.
And I think that dampens some of the fear factor that goes into a paranoia. Right. But also when you're thinking about comparing it to 5 years later with Paranormal Activity features like camcorders and
security CCTV camera,
DVDs, I think, and laptops, right? Like,
that's what I was gonna say. They could have pulled it off, easily if they had waited for it and then dropped it.
I like it the way it is, though.
I think it's great, and that's why I gave it an 8. Yeah, but just thinking about that makes me just go, ooh, because Paranormal Activity is like a great movie. Those first 2 movies together, just incredible movies. Like I said, we're a horror film household, so.
Well, anyway, that was The Ring, and we talked a little bit about the features that make it so Washingtonian.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this was more of a fun episode. This episode is brought to you by the fact that the Barefoot Bandit episode is taking me forever to just research, because I'm reading a book and I don't have time. Yeah. Because we're planning big events in our lives. So.
Right. I'm looking at a couple of more historical topics, but we'll pop more in. So we'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right. See ya. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.